Hi, I'd like to welcome you to country. Today we are meeting on Bambai land. My name is Lesley Patterson. I am a Bambai elder, and I'd like to introduce Michelle McKemey.
Thanks. Yep, my name's Michelle McKemey. I'm studying at the University of New England. I'd like to acknowledge the Bambai people on whose land I live and work, and also my PhD supervisors.
And I'd like to acknowledge my elders past, present and future. I live out on Wattle Ridge IPA, and a lot of the Bambai rangers come out each morning and we work and do a lot of the fence and all that out on Wattle.
So we're here today to tell you about our cross-cultural research that we've been doing for 7 years now. Our research investigates ways in which Indigenous rangers and non-Indigenous scientists can work together to develop cross-cultural or right-way science to support cultural fire management. So we use this to we explore how Indigenous and Western knowledge systems can be used together to monitor and manage ecosystems. And through this process, the Bambai mob chose the echidna, which is a culturally significant species, and the threatened plant species of backwater grevillea to monitor, as well as a number of other ecosystem attributes, which we're going to talk to you about today.
We reintroduced cultural burning at Wattle Ridge in 2014. We do cultural burning to look after country, plants, animals, and practice our culture. It is different to acid reduction burning, which is done by national parks and wildlife at Warra National Park, next door to Wattle. Acid reduction burning is larger and hotter. In 2019, the Black Summer bushfires burnt out all of Wattle, IPA and Warra National Park. This was a very severe fire which impacted our plants and wildlife. We chose the echidna because it is our totem and features on rock art and at Wattle Ridge IPA, and it is also a symbol that we wear on our clothes.
Yeah. So together we collected the data that looked at how cultural burning compared to hazard reduction burning affects the echidna. And we found that at Warra National Park, which had been subject to hazard reduction burning, some of the key habitat features had been significantly impacted by burning, whereas they hadn't been impacted at Wattle Ridge through cultural burning. We also found that the signs that echidnas leave behind had been impacted by hazard reduction burning. So they were smaller and more frequent after the hotter burn. And we concluded that echidnas are more active after hot burns, but they appear to forage quickly and then move on to avoid predation from foxes and possibly wild dogs.
Here we chose the grevillea because it is a threatened species that is only found in the backwater area.
Yeah, so here we compared at Wattle Ridge IPA the impact of cultural burning versus bushfire on the grevillea. So the cultural burn was undertaken in 2015, and then we monitored it in 2016 and found that of the old growth grevilleas, about half of them had been killed by the cultural burn. However, when we compared that with the wildfire in 2020, we found that there was a 99.6% mortality rate of mature old growth shrubs. So pretty much the wildfire wiped them all out, whereas the patchy cultural burn left a few mature shrubs behind. We also found that the cultural burn, when we did our post-burn monitoring in 2016, had stimulated a mass recruitment event of cedars germination. Likewise, the bushfire also stimulated a mass recruitment event, but in the areas that had been previously burnt, there was less recruitment after the second fire. So it looks like that the seed bank had been impacted by the original cultural burn. So our recommendations are that we need to avoid too frequent or severe fire. The backwater grevillea was taken off the EPBC Act in 2013. We think this needs to be reviewed and possibly relisted. And we think it's very important to map and prioritise populations for conservation and to be able to continue our cross-cultural monitoring. Another thing that we have measured is fuel loads. So we have compared fuel loads before and after cultural burning, hazard reduction burning and bushfire. And you can see in the table there, we've compared the characteristics of the different types of fire. Cultural burning was small, it didn't impact the canopy, and it was patchy. Hazard reduction burning was sort of medium size. It was 685 hectares. It impacted 10% of the canopy and it was moderate intensity. And then the bushfire that came through was large. It was over 9,000 hectares. It was very hot. It impacted 90% of the canopy and it was very severe. When you look at the fuel loads after cultural burning did effectively reduce fuel loads. That's the results there from cultural burning and hazard reduction burning. And then after the bushfire, fuel loads were again reduced significantly.
Over 7 years, we spent a lot of time out on country at Wattle Ridge, IPA, to observe the changes throughout the year. And after cultural burning, for example, we notice things such as orchids coming up after fire and echidnas forming breeding trains during the cold times.
So this Windburr equals fire used multiple evidence bases to help us to produce something to guide cultural burning. So this was co-generated, and the different types of knowledge we used were Indigenous knowledge. We used the results of our cross-cultural monitoring and our observations over the years, local knowledge, as well as literature reviews into archaeological and ethno-historical records. So we brought all of that knowledge together to create our fire and seasons calendar, which is now used by the Banbai mob to help to guide their cultural burning. So our study has provided quantitative and qualitative evidence to assess the outcomes of cultural burning. Indigenous fire managers have asked for support from scientists to help to demonstrate what they already know from their practice. In recent years, best practice guidelines for cross-cultural research and Indigenous priorities for cultural fire management research have been articulated, and these provide clear direction for scientists who wish to engage in cross-cultural research. We've described the process whereby the Banbai Rangers in New South Wales reintroduced cultural burning and renewed their cultural fire knowledge. This demonstrates that cultural fire knowledge and practice is alive in South East Australia, contrary to the findings of some previous bushfire inquiries. Prescribed burning has had mixed success in protecting us from bushfires, and the future is potentially dire. However, Australia could be well positioned to respond to the advancing pyro scene through its experience, fire culture and technological capacity. While only one component of a multifaceted and complex solution, which must address issues such as climate change and disaster management, Indigenous cultural fire management is now recognised as part of this solution through things such as the 2020 Bushfire Royal Commission and state bushfire inquiries. Cultural burning not only brings a practice of fire management, but a holistic philosophy that underpins how land, wildlife, people, and the cosmos interrelate, rather than the extractive commodification enlightenment philosophy that has dominated Western resource management in this volatile, unpredictable, and deeply concerning era of the pyro scene. We must look to Indigenous and collective wisdom to help us to navigate to a sustainable future. The next steps in the research embarked on here should focus on supporting Indigenous research priorities and methodologies using right-way science. Where there's complementarity between Indigenous and non-Indigenous research priorities, these should be pursued. In the view of the multiple wicked problems associated with the pyrocene, such as ongoing ecosystem degradation and climate change, and the need for Australian society to continue our journey of reconciliation with our First Nations peoples, further research into cross-cultural approaches, managing fire and adapting to climate change should be a high priority.
We all need to work together to look after country and make sure we are using the right type of fire. Thank you.
Thank you.